New Steelers head coach Mike McCarthy has officially finalized his first coaching staff as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And today here on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be letting you guys know where I believe Mike McCarthy has upgraded this coaching staff. Some areas where it's around the same, or in some cases exactly the same. And then some areas maybe where Mike McCarthy's staff is downgraded from what Mike Tomlin had this team in 2025. Now, before we get into the content today and we talk about the Steelers coaching staff, we are one day away from Valentine's Day. So I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to shout out your Valentine down there in the comment section. Let me know who your special someone is and give them a special Valentine's Day shout out in the comment section. And of course, I got to give my shout out to my lovely fiance, Cassie Voth. I absolutely love her to death, and I can't wait to marry her in June. So wanted to give her a special shout out here the day before Valentine's Day. I love you, babe. All right, so now let's get into the coaching staff here. And the first thing you guys got to know about this coaching staff is the sheer size of it, all right? This is the largest coaching staff in the history of the team. And I think a lot of people were kind of worried about, they're only hiring Mike McCarthy to maintain status quo, need to have a smaller staff so that the Rooneys don't have to pay a lot of money for a larger staff. But this is a pretty sizable staff with a lot of supplementary coaches and quality control staff and analytics staff and all that different stuff. And, I think that this is about as large as, any staff would have been with Chris Shula or Nate Scheelhaase or one of these quote-unquote modern head coaches. I think that, Mike McCarthy has certainly taken some of the more modern trends and have introduced them here to the Steelers organization, even though he starts his tenure as the head coach of this team, the oldest head coach in the history of the franchise. Just because you're older, guys, doesn't mean you can't modernize. Certainly seems that is something that Mike McCarthy is doing here in Pittsburgh. But we'll start here with leadership and culture at the top from the head coach. And I do believe that this particular area has been downgraded, moving from Mike Tomlin, who I consider one of the greatest locker room and culture builders in the history of the National Football League. I mean, players were reportedly bawling their eyes out when he told them that he was leaving the team. You don't get that kind of love and respect and admiration from your players unless you're one hell of a leader, one hell of a motivator, and one hell of a culture builder. And that was probably the best thing that Mike Tomlin had in his bag as a head coach. Unfortunately, he wasn't a great staff builder. Sometimes he did not bring in the best players to get the job done here, and that held the team back. But you don't have 19 straight non-losing seasons and go through that much adversity and come out the other side with at least a 500 record every single year if you can't get people to buy in and time out. That was Mike Tomlin's superpower, and with Mike McCarthy, I do think that area of the coaching staff will be downgraded. But then game management, I think, will be slightly upgraded here with Mike McCarthy. Now, McCarthy has been known as somebody that's not a very good game manager throughout his career. That is certainly true. But unlike Tomlin, Mike McCarthy has hired somebody to help him out with that on game days. Tim Burbinich is going to be this team's game management specialist here, guys. So this is what he looks like. All right, he's going to be, having a headset, and he's going to be keeping an eye on the clock and the timeouts and all that different stuff. And his sole job on Sundays is going to be to, buzz Mike McCarthy if there's something he needs to know about something game management-wise. He's going to have the analytics on when to go for it, on fourth down, all that different stuff, and he's going to help Mike McCarthy make those game management type of decisions in the moment on game days. That was something that Mike Tomlin did not want at all. He completely went with gut feeling, and I think that was something that hurt the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think bringing in this game management specialist, especially for an offensive play-calling head coach, will be a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. Then when it comes to the analytics department, I think that is a big upgrade. McCarthy has added a couple new people to the quality control staff where they will be going over the different analytics and the different numbers to make sure that the Steelers offense and defense are doing the things that they need to do from a trends perspective. This is something that Mike Tomlin, once again, never did. He hated analytics. They only had 2 analytics specialists on the team or on the staff before, and they didn't really lean on them all that much. Mike McCarthy is a big proponent of analytics and, moving the game forward. He's even said he might be using some AI components here in the near future here in the organization. So it does seem that Mike McCarthy is pushing this organization into the future, even though he is 62 years old and an 18-year NFL head coaching veteran. But then we can get to the scheme here, guys. And I think the offensive play calling and scheme with Brian Angelico as the new offensive coordinator and, of course, Mike McCarthy calling the plays on Sundays is an upgrade, okay? It's actually not going to be that dissimilar from what the Steelers ran last year under Arthur Smith, especially if Aaron Rodgers comes back. Aaron likes to run what he runs, and my guess is it will be, somewhat structurally and schematically similar if Rodgers is back next year. But McCarthy is known more as a downfield, attacker, and he likes to throw the ball down the field over the middle of the field. And I think you will see more downfield passing in this offense with Mike McCarthy at the helm. And Brian Angelico, our new offensive coordinator, was very cherished by Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. He helped him come up with a bunch of their creative motions and their passing concepts and the way they dress things up. I think his influence on McCarthy will be huge as well. If you guys want to check out our entire video breaking down the Mike McCarthy and Brian Angelico offense and why I think it's going to be successful here in Pittsburgh, I'll put the chip to that video in the top right if you want a more in-depth look. But now we can look at the assistant coaches on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, Tom Arth is a wash. He was here last year. He's back this year, so the exact same in that regard. Then at running backs coach, I do like Ramon Chinyong Sr., but his background is in offensive line coaching, okay? And now he's moving to running back coaching, and he's replacing somebody that was a really good running backs coach here in Pittsburgh and Eddie Faulkner. So I have an open mind to this guy because he's got a great reputation, okay? I think he's going to, he's going to, take to the position well, okay? I don't think this is a disaster hire by any stretch of the imagination. This is more me paying respect to Eddie Faulkner as a running backs coach more than it's me trashing Ramon Chinyong. But then we get to the wide receiver coaching position. I think this is an upgrade over Zach Azzani. Adam Henry helped develop guys like OBJ, Jarvis Landry, CeeDee Lamb in Dallas, and obviously we'll be probably drafting at least a couple wide receivers this year. You might be bringing in a couple more players. You've got some young receivers on the roster already, namely one, Roman Wilson, if they decide to keep him. So I think Adam Henry is an excellent wide receiver coach, and I think he is an upgrade over Zach Azzani. Then the tight ends coach, I do believe it's an upgrade with Robert Kugler coming in here. He's coming over from Mike Vrabel's staff in New England. And it's also worth noting that Angelico, the offensive coordinator, is going to be working with the tight ends as well. He's known as one of the best tight ends coaches in the world, and he has been known as one of the best tight ends coaches in the league for a very long time. Then along the offensive line, I think once again, it's an upgrade with James Campen and Jari Evans coming in. Campen as the main O-line coach, Jari Evans as the assistant. My guess is Campen doesn't have many years left coaching. He's probably going to retire at least in the next few years, and Jari Evans is the heir apparent to that position when and if he steps down. It's also worth noting that Campen is very close with Aaron Rodgers, so I think that certainly increases the chances that Rodgers is back next season. But coming up next here on Steelers Talk, I will be breaking down the Steelers' defensive coaching staff, where I think that it's being upgraded, downgraded, and then we'll get into some special teams coaching stuff before we head out for the day. But before we get into the second half of our video today, guys, let me know for today's pinned question, what is your favorite hire from this year's Steelers coaching staff? Who's the guy that you're just jazzed that the Steelers have on their coaching staff this year? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. Just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at GLD. Well, I tell you about our sponsor today. Let me know down there in the comment section your answer to today's pinned question. All right, fellas, let's be real. Buying men's jewelry can be a complete nightmare nowadays. Most of the time, it's low-quality junk that just snaps after a week, or it was just insanely overpriced, and it's with ridiculous markups. That's why I rock with GLD, and you guys can use code CHAT today to get 50% off at GLD.com. GLD has completely changed the game in men's jewelry. You're getting quality pieces that are built to last without breaking the bank. And unlike a lot of other companies, GLD only uses real gold. None of that cheap stuff. Every single stone is meticulously hand set, plus their proprietary production process makes sure you're getting the highest quality jewelry possible. You can literally see and feel the difference with GLD. And I've actually got my GLD Steelers pendant with me right here, guys. I wear it during our Steelers Talk watch parties. I'm wearing a hoodie today, and I don't like wearing chains with hoodies personally, but I absolutely love this piece. I wear it all the time, especially when I go to Latrobe with Cassie for our annual for our annual training camp trip, and on watch parties and all that different stuff. And you guys know the feeling when you put on a new chain. It just hits different. It elevates your whole fit, from the confidence to the compliments you get to the way you carry yourself. They all change instantly. And GLD has everything from chains to pendants to rings, earrings, even fully iced out watches if that's your style. Whatever your style is, though, they've got you covered. And listen, don't just take my word for it, guys. Over 2 million customers and 50,000 5-star reviews back this stuff up. Not to mention it's worn by some of the biggest names out there like Justin Bieber, Micah Parsons, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, A$AP Rocky, and a ton more. The best part, though, is that every single piece from GLD is guaranteed for life. It's literally built to last the rest of your life, just like your love for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So work hard and change the game right now. GLD is making shopping easy for you. For a limited time only, new customers get an insane deal. Use code CHAT to get 50% off at GLD.com. That's 50% off with code CHAT at GLD.com. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. And a big thank you to GLD for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. Now, just like on the offensive side of the ball, I believe the play calling and scheme on this side of the football is being upgraded with our new defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham, who I've been an admirer of for a long time. His calling card is versatility and adaptability. He tailor-makes every single defensive game plan based on the personnel that he has available to him and then the opponent that they're playing. So on a week-to-week basis, we might be seeing a man-heavy approach or a zone-heavy approach or potentially a man match or a zone match heavy game plan, and he might mix up the fronts that he uses. He's going to use pre-snap disguises and post-snap rotations, and he's going to, do what's best for the team with the talent that's available and the tendencies of the offense that he's playing every single week. Something that was just not the case under Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin, who would put linebackers in tough positions. It was very much an older school, traditional 3-4 style of defense. Patrick Graham might be keeping the 3-4 around here in Pittsburgh if that's what he wants to do with this personnel, but also I think that he's going to be doing some more modern stuff, which is going to help take this Steelers defense to the next level and hopefully back to the elite category where this team belongs. But if you guys want to check out my entire video on Patrick Graham's defense and why I think it's a big step up from Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin and what this defense has been the last few years, I'll put the chip to that one in the top right of today's show if you want to check it out. But now we can talk about some of the defensive assistants here. Defensive line coach, I do believe, is a downgrade from Carl Dunbar with the Pecco. Now, Pecco, I think, is a good coach. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player, too. He's a really, really good professional player, and I think that he's going to do a good job here. But, this is more, once again, about how much I like Coach Dunbar more than my feelings on Coach Pecco. But then the offensive line coach, once again, I'll say is a wash. Now, CJIU is very well respected. He helped develop David Bailey into what he is. He's going to be a top 10 draft pick this year for the Red Raiders, right? He's worked with some really, really good players there at Texas Tech, and he's known as a little bit of a psycho, and I like that. And I think he's going to do a really good job here in Pittsburgh. But Denzel Martin, our last outside linebackers coach, obviously was fantastic working with T.J. Watt and Nick Herbig and Alex Highsmith, developing those guys to some of the best in the game. So certainly IU has very big shoes to fill at this position, but I will say it's a wash because I do really respect the coaching profile he brings to the table. Then when it comes to the inside linebackers coach, obviously it's a wash. It's the same guy that was here last year under Mike Tomlin. Scott McCurley is a Mike McCarthy guy. Came over to us from Dallas when McCarthy got fired. So that one's a wash there. But then in the secondary, I think it's also a wash. I'm a big fan of Alexander, of GA, the guy that just left us for Minnesota. But I also think Joe Witt Jr. and Jason Simmons know what they're doing in the secondary. Joe Witt Jr. has helped develop some of the better ball hawks in the National Football League over the last decade in the National Football League. He's also going to be this team's assistant head coach. I think he brings a little bit of that leadership and juice that Tomlin brought that McCarthy maybe doesn't bring as much of. So I think he's an excellent choice for assistant head coach, and I think he's been a very good secondary coach throughout his career. So I like that hire quite a bit. However, I did not love the special teams coordinator hire. This is the one hire where I'm really not feeling it, guys. Going from Danny Smith to Danny Crossman, and Crossman has been a special teams coordinator in a bunch of different stops, none of which have been particularly fruitful for that phase of the game. And frankly, Mike McCarthy's teams have been kind of known for not having great special teams throughout the years. Unfortunately, that might be something that pops up now that Danny Crossman is our new special teams coordinator, but I'm wishing him the best of luck, of course. So when you take all the categories that we talked about today and add up, the areas where I think we upgraded the areas where I think we're the same, and the areas where I think we downgraded. I think for the most part, it's mostly positive. All right, 7 out of the 15 categories we talked today, nearly half of them are being upgraded by Mike McCarthy and his staff. And I just think in general, this coaching staff is better than it was in years past under Mike Tomlin, who frankly maybe his biggest weakness was building out his staff, particularly when it came to the guys calling his plays. All right, Matt Canada, Arthur Smith, Randy Fittner, Terrell Austin, all these different guys that just weren't very good at their jobs, to be quite honest with you, and we're kind of living in the past. And I do think Tomlin was probably driving the ship a little bit in terms of the tendencies and what they were doing schematically, but now you can move forward into this new era of Steelers football with guys that know what they're doing, and I think it's going to be very fruitful for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the very near future. So my initial staff grade here, guys, and I know a lot of people are still very upset about the Mike McCarthy hire. I wasn't as low on the McCarthy hire as a lot of people out there, and I think he's filled out this staff pretty nicely. I said when they hired Mike McCarthy, the defensive coordinator hire was going to be almost just as important as the head coaching hire. And I think Patrick Graham was an excellent choice. So, taking into account that both schemes, both sides of the ball are being upgraded here, the fact that you're expanding the analytics department and you have somebody to help the head coach in game management situations, and I think this team will be more aggressive in fourth down situations than Mike Tomlin was. I just think that the overall operation is better under Mike McCarthy right now, and the only thing that the Steelers are really truly sacrificing by making this move and Mike Tomlin stepping down and finding this new head coach is that you don't have the same leadership and culture building stuff that Mike Tomlin brought to the table. So it's your turn. Let me know down there in the comment section, what grade do you give Mike McCarthy's first coaching staff as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I'm giving it an A-. I don't like the special teams coordinator hire, and I don't love losing Mike Tomlin's leadership ability, but at the end of the day, I got A- because I think that there's a lot of improvements being made here, and I do think the Steelers are setting themselves up for success in the short and long-term future with Mike McCarthy. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're going to get you guys some great Steelers content over Valentine's Day weekend as well, leading up to the next time that we're live, which is going to be next Tuesday, by the way, guys. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. Till next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.